I'm going to go ahead and all right, all right, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and get this kicked off here. I have gone ahead and muted everybody. If you do have a question, definitely feel free to raise your hand. I will open this up for Q&A at the end here. We're talking, it's going to last about 35, 40 minutes. Today, we're going to be talking about call centers versus contact centers, the evolution of customer engagement. I've added an additional layer to this, which is basically call accounting. And call accounting is kind of a simpler layer of if you're trying to get some data on your call. So as I said, this will run about 35, 40 minutes. We know your time is valuable. So if you have to run, don't worry. If you signed up for it, we'll go ahead and get you a copy. Or if you just Google OneCloud webinars, you can see our upcoming webinars and see some webinars on demand. So the past solutions that we've done are available for you to check out. So I'll go ahead and get moving here. My name is Ben Smagas. My role within the organization is onboarding and product evangelism. And I want to give a quick shout out to the marketing team for throwing a little new emoji for me. I have a feeling we'll see a few of those come running around soon. But as I said, my role onboarding product evangelism. I have been with Telware One Cloud for going on 15 years. I've seen a lot of shifts in technology during that time. In my past life or past parts of my role, I've been in contact centers or call centers. So it's been cool to see the evolution of technology from traditional things, 15, 16, 17 years ago to where we are now. And the changes in technology has been it's been dramatic, it's been quick, and it's been a lot. And some of it's been pretty neat. And to be part of a company like OneCloud on the edge of the growth of this technology as things evolve has definitely been an honor and been a great experience. So with that said, what is OneCloud? So OneCloud is more than just a UCaaS provider. UCaaS being unified communications as a service or a tool that allows you to consolidate your voice and messaging and video conferencing, things like that, all into one platform. We come from a legacy of telecom. So we go back to the mid 80s, and during that time, we were an organization called Catskill Communications that focused on structured cabling and on-premise PBX phone systems. It grew from there into an organization called Telware. Telware is a mashup of telephones and software. Telephones being that, you pick them up, you answer them, you make calls, whatever. But when things like voicemail or IVRs got more complicated, if you ever call your pharmacy or things along those lines, there's some automated or interactive voice response or IVR or auto attendants that you can talk to. And that was driven by software. And then eventually we evolved into OneCloud. So Telware's still around. Their focus now is more infrastructure, such as structured cabling, data racks, data centers, overhead paging or contacts, TVs, whatever. They can handle all of that. On the software development side is where OneCloud kind of lives now. Oh, hold on. I am, though. Hold on. I just got yelled at. Let me know again. I did share again. Is everybody able to see my screen? Lindsay, if you can get back to your desk and let me know. It is? Okay, cool. I was sharing before. That was weird. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much. With the growth of technology and OneCloud evolving into software development and our background of telecom, we knew that there was a lot of disconnects moving to the cloud. COVID came, a lot of things rushed to the cloud, but a lot of things were left behind, such as faxing. Still a big issue. I was with Doyle yesterday, and a customer they struggled with faxing when things moved to the cloud, or mass notifications, or even right now POTS replacement is a big deal. So some of the things that make us more than a UCaaS provider is we're also providing things like POTS replacement. We're offering faxing solutions, mass notification solutions. We are an Operator Connect certified partner, which means that we actually are plugged directly into Microsoft's Azure data centers. And we also dabble in mobile. So we have the ability to take your business extension and just turn it into a cell phone. So we filled a lot of the gaps in the roles that were kind of left behind with the move to the cloud. We're not just a software company that made a communication software, we actually come from a legacy of communication. So we know the ins and outs of all that. So with that said, I'll go ahead and cover our agenda today. We'll be talking about call center versus contact center, the differences between call center and contact center. Some of them are, obvious, but there's a lot of information that can be, still pulled in call centers or even call accounting. But where does contact centers really come in, and what difference does that make? We'll talk a little bit about reporting and analytics, so from basic CDRs to advanced contact center analytics and insights, and from challenge to solutions. I have a couple of real world solutions for the way that we've deployed some of these softwares. So again, call accounting or call center or contact centers. In these case studies, as I go through this, I'll kind of reference some of the things that we'll touch on those. And then we'll talk about choosing the right solution. What does your business really need? So what are some key questions that you can ask as a business owner? What do I need? Do I need that full crazy contact center with all these bells and whistles, or do I need something a little bit more basic? So hopefully some of these questions will help you better understand maybe your organization and what tool or solution you need at the time. And then lastly, we'll touch on a seamless transition. I like to touch on this every time I do a webinar. What should you as a customer expect when you're transitioning to a new software or a new solution within your organization? It doesn't matter if it's, again, moving to a contact center or even just changing your faxing solution. What does that look like? So what I want to talk about real quick too is what you're going to walk away with today. Hopefully the value that we can bring will help you understand the difference and get clear distinctions between call accounting, call centers, and omni-channel contact centers, what they do and who they're for, and kind of when to use each one. You'll also learn from real world scenarios, so exploring some real business examples that show how organizations identify the right size solution for their business, and from some basic reporting needs to a full contact center platform. And then, as I mentioned, help you ask the right questions, maybe give you a few key questions to help you decide if a call center or a full contact center best suits your needs, what your expectations are, and your growth goals. So, call center versus contact center. Not every business needs a contact center, but every call can certainly tell a story. So, call accounting, call centers, and contact centers, they do kind of sound alike, but each does serve a unique purpose. Call accounting is going to track basic phone activity. Call came in, call came out. Call centers are going to help you manage and better understand high call volumes with, seriously? I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on today. I have something going on. My apologies. Um, Better? Thank you. I apologize. Call centers manage high call volumes with routing and agents, and contact centers will add chat, email, SMS, and provide for some deeper integrations for multi-channel experiences as your needs grow. So some of the main differences that are involved here. Call accounting is usually a very lightweight, easy to use form of call reporting. It's going to give you basic call analytics and trends. It's going to give you some extension level reporting, and it tends to be most cost effective. Um, Call accounting is going to give you more of an idea of maybe how many calls came in, how many were answered, but it's not going to get very granular on the life cycle or the journey of that call. It's usually quite simple, just needed for the basics. Maybe to understand, what maybe queue you're going to have the most call volume in, what what calls are getting answered the most, which ones aren't, what individuals are taking the most calls. But that's usually the best way to really understand call accounting and what it's going to do for you. It utilizes what's called CDRs or call detail records. And they're usually basic, which is going to provide maybe the length of the call, the date of the call, the time of the call, and then essentially maybe who answered it. But that's really about the best you're going to get out of call accounting. From there, you have call centers. Call centers is a phone-based support, but it's going to offer you some essential reporting. But now you're bringing in things like basic AI. AI can sit maybe at the edge of the customers coming in, and maybe ask them some specific questions that will help them route the call. Some cool things that are coming out in the near future is maybe like an AI receptionist that instead of having an auto attendant, you're going to have an AI receptionist that says, "Hey, I'm a virtual assistant. How can I assist you today?" And based on the feedback it gets, it can either route you to maybe your sales team or maybe your service team. And then AI ties in, giving you some basics of things like sentiment analysis. Uh, but again, it doesn't give you a ton when it comes to limited, or it's going to give you some limited customer insight. You'll be able to track some key metrics, wait times, get more granular into what agents are doing. It's really only a voice only focus, but again, you're still adding a little bit more structure and some better, let's say, just real time analytics or wall boards and better understanding of what's going on with those calls. And then lastly, you have a omni-channel or a contact center. So the big deal with contact center does open you up to allow far more communication or far more channels other than just voice. These days, customers demand a lot of different pieces. And I asked a coworker, I don't know if Donald's on with us today, but I said to Donald, I said, "Hey man, what's the first thing that you think about when I say the word contact center?" And he immediately said, "You meet the customer where they are." And that's a very, very accurate statement. So we're busy these days, and not everybody has time to sit on a phone call and go through a whole lot of, auto attendants and phone trees and sit on hold. We're multitasking. Maybe we're in a loud environment. Maybe I want to get something done now, and I need to be able to communicate the way that I want to. Maybe I'm on a subway in New York City and I don't have time for a phone call, but I'm interested in those shoes. I want to know a little bit more about it. So at that point, what I can do is I can SMS or text directly to a particular customer, or I can go to their web chat, or I can send them an email. But all of those touch points, the phone calls, the SMS, the texting, the web chat, the email, that call comes into a centralized contact center. Each one of those pieces is a touch, and it allows you to better interact with your customers. But then now you're digging into things where you have integrations over to your CRMs or ERP tools that are not only tracking those touches, but providing that information, those analytics of that data to an agent that might be handling that customer interaction. One example of meeting the customer where they are is, today we live in, in a world where things are getting far more convenient. And now instead of having to go to Taco Bell, I can DoorDash Taco Bell to my house, which, definitely costs a little bit more money for a burrito, but we do it. A good example would be, there's a mom out there that needed to order groceries for the night or for the day or for the next couple of days. She puts in her order online via their app. That app is again a touch point, right? So I could use my e-commerce system, capture that customer's interaction and what they purchased or what they ordered, and then I can have those groceries delivered. Well, maybe when those groceries are delivered to the house, I realize that they messed it up and there's something a little bit different in there that I didn't particularly order, or they forgot an item. So now the mom's going to make a phone call to tell them they messed up. But at the same time, she's going to need to go and pick up her kid from school and, carry on with the rest of her day. Make that phone call, have that conversation about what's missing. But now the next interaction from an agent isn't going to be another phone call. Now it can be now it can be escalated to a text message. So now I can text this individual as they're on the go. They're sitting at the school waiting for their kid to come out. And now I can say, "Hey, by the way, we don't have that particular product. That's why it didn't show up, but here are some alternatives." That individual can pick their alternative. And then as they're on their way home, they can stop at the store real quick, pull into that number 5 or number 3 parking spot, whatever it is, let them know that they're there, and that replacement product comes out. You're meeting the customer where they are, you're improving that customer interaction. And all of that information kind of gives you an overall idea of, how can we better serve our customers the way that they want to talk way they want to communicate and whatever they got going on for the day. I mean, we all are very, very busy in what we're trying to accomplish. So with that said, kind of an overview of call accounting versus an omni-channel CX. Call accounting, it's lightweight, very, very simple reporting, generally only phones, standard analytics with extension level reporting. You've got some basic call tracking, you've got some trends, but there's really no personalization there. It's not what it's meant to be. There's no integrations, and it is going to be your most affordable option, but you're really not getting much functionality out of it. You're just literally getting, again, was a call answered, was it not? Call centers take you to that next step, giving you voice support, basic analytics with some limited AI. Again, phone only. You're getting a little bit more granular into what you're seeing on the reporting and with the tools and the insights you have. And then really the Mac Daddy is going to be omni-channel CX. At this point, now you can have AI doing a lot more stuff, and I'll dig into that into the next piece here with what it's capturing, what it's understanding. It can be predictive. It can suggest information to individuals regardless of the channel. So again, call centers, again, voice focused and omni-channel, you're opening up that avenue to allow customers to touch base with you a lot of different ways. So with that said, I'm going to jump into reporting and analytics. So with call accounting, you're going to have a little bit more visibility into phone usage, tracking call volume, duration, direction, and help you, spot some trends to maybe reduce cost or boost accountability of individuals who may or may not be answering the phone. A lot of these tools come with customizable reports, and it's great for auditing voice activity and identifying a little bit more about the departments or the individuals who are taking calls for your team. But versus a call center, this is very, very vanilla and black and white with what you're trying to get into. With call accounting, just looking at some of the cool graphics over here, you're going to see things like call distribution by day, hour. So that's going to give you a little bit more information as to when your peak calls are coming in. You can see your total incoming or outgoing calls, or for example here, A. Marlin had a total of 74 calls for a particular day or a particular week or a couple of days. And I can break them down and look at how many incoming calls that they took, how many outgoing calls that they make. What does their internal calls look like? What is their internal outgoing calls? This can be very beneficial when you're trying to identify maybe one person might be a little bit less productive than the other, but it's not going to give you maybe what their average hold times are, things along those lines. But it might tell you if I have 150 calls that go into a queue and I've got 5 people in that queue, who's taking the brunt of those calls? Who's taking the longest? Who is handling them in the least amount of time? So it kind of gives you a better idea of maybe the productivity of your team. Or maybe, hey, this is my call volume. This is my total amount of people. We're not answering all these calls. Maybe I need to add somebody to that mix. Moving on from there is call centers. And this is where you take it to the next step, right? So I'm going to make sure I got my graph up here to show it. Hopefully I can. Let's see. There we go. Call centers offer a real-time visibility into call activity. So this is going to give you real-time visibility of what's going on with your queues, what your agents are, what their status is. Are they available? Are they not available? I can get into more ideas on volume and handle time, which is I can look at 3 queues. Maybe I have the same people in each one of those queues, but I want to know what their average handle time is between service and sales, or what their average hold time is between service and sales. Call centers start bringing in other tools as well, such as you now have some coaching tools. Those coaching tools will allow you to do things like live monitor your agents, provide coaching for them, also do things like record calls. So now I can go back and historically listen to these calls and provide some of that information or provide some of that feedback that is needed. Pull it back up. And then Now you also have some of the AI that comes in providing things like sentiment analysis, where I can look at a queue and say, "Hey, how many calls were answered, and then what is the average sentiment of that queue? Is everybody happy? Are most of the interactions within that group neutral or even negative? Or look at just the individuals within that queue and see are Bill's calls mostly positive and Tim's calls are mostly negative. Gives you a higher understanding. I want to share just a quick screenshot here, or not a screenshot, but just a quick example of what some of the reporting looks like. This would be a real time example of now you're stepping into that contact or call center later. Now I can see the call volumes per day separated by my queues. I can look at my abandon rates now, how many calls are coming in and not getting answered. I can see the call queues and look at the wait times, the agents available, and see the volumes that are available for my groups. You can also get into other pieces like set SLAs and look at the volumes or even the statuses of your agents and get even more granular into that reporting. So these tools bring a lot more to the table when you're trying to understand what's going on with your call volume, different types of teams, and then understanding your agents a little bit more and understanding their performance. Are they available when they're supposed to be? Are they logged in when they're supposed to be? Are they taking longer on a call than they should? So it makes a big difference when you're trying to identify that information. Share this. Right. Next is when we move on to a contact center. So contact centers unify reporting across multiple different tools and solutions. So at this point now, I showed you the call center stuff, and that report is going to just focus strictly on voice. And now I'm able to capture that information on texting or SMS, web chat, email, giving me a full view of those customer interactions. But now it gets even richer where I can tie that information directly into my CRM and get custom pop ups or custom information that is logged. So when an agent has a conversation, now I can actually get transcriptions or sentiment of that information or even a disposition of that interaction and place it into my CRM. But not only from there, when a call or an email or a web chat is offered to one of my agents, I can populate some of that data and present it to my agent. So let's say, for example, a web chat comes in to somebody in our support team. I want to display to that agent the last 5 service tickets that they've had, or maybe I want to let them know that the customer has an open ticket. But also, when that information comes in, that agent now has that information readily available in front of them for them to address the customer and already have some information prepared, which makes a better customer experience because they feel now like I know who I'm talking to. I already know that customer. I don't feel like a random person who's just made another call and this company doesn't know who I am. You also have the ability for the remote coaching. And again, it doesn't matter if in this scenario you have tools where you can do and monitor web chat live. I can monitor the emails and what things that those agents are dealing with. I can monitor the calls, even video chats you're able to move into. And tools like full contact centers also will do screen recording. So a lot of scenarios where you're going to do a coaching session with an agent, I don't only want to make sure that maybe they took this phone call and they answered the call correctly and they said all the right things, but now I want to look at what they're doing on their screen. Did they take a call that was supposed to be a service ticket and they never made the service ticket? What were they interacting with on their desktop to further assist the customer? Were they using the resources that they were supposed to be using? Did they create the ticket properly and tag individuals correctly in it? So being able to tie those things together is very, very important for coaching. And then lastly, these tools bring in pieces such as allowing you to now start capturing better CSAT or customer satisfaction, as well as NPR or Net Promoter Scores. NPR these days is really what is considered the gold standard of understanding a customer, but also capturing all these touch points, capturing the sentiment, capturing all of those interactions, and placing things like that into a CRM also help you better understand maybe your what your customer health score might be. And a customer health score helps you better identify what customers are going to churn and what customers are not going to churn. And a key way to do that is make sure that you understand all of their touch points. Out of all of these touch points, maybe I need to identify that out of 25% of the calls that are or 25% of the web chats that are escalated to a call, I'm noticing that there's already a much larger negative sentiment there. What is going on? Do I need to look at that web chat agent in particular, or maybe it's a solution that we're offering our customers that's leading to more negative sentiment and more upset customers? Tools like Contact Center also allow you to have a little bit more of a robust um, outbound campaign as well. And sorry, I want to loop this back to the NPR, the CSAT piece. Tools like Contact Center, since they do integrate so heavily into pieces like CRMs, maybe an agent has a phone call. I've had this when I've called an ISP before. I call in about some issue with my internet. We talk for a little bit. They end up solving my issue, and we end the call. When that call is ended, or even a web chat is ended, or even an email is ended, I can take that contact point and that customer information and place it on a list. That list can then send out a CSAT survey or an NPR survey an hour or even a day later for that customer to take. During that interaction with an agent, did they solve your problem? One-time resolution? Was the customer or was the agent courteous? How likely are you to recommend this particular product to a friend? So contact centers take it to the next level with all of those integrations and the tools that really come with it. With that said, I'd like to talk quickly on how others have benefited. Some use cases here. We have a customer who, without getting into a name, they have about 10 locations around the North Carolina or Triad area. They are a multi-site business, and the operations manager needed a little bit better visibility into what was going on with their call volume. So out of these 10 locations, they really only had two phones at each location. They didn't really have a call center, and out of these phones at each location, one of them was a cordless phone, and they needed an idea of what's the call volume like at these stores. They already see a couple of stores that were underperforming. Are they just not answering the calls and getting the service scheduled, or what's going on? But secondly, some of their stores were in an area that saw a little bit more business, and they wanted to see if maybe what is their after hours call volume. These locations were open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But after 5, these calls were then routed out to an after hours call service that would schedule the next following appointment. And they didn't have a way to see how many calls are they getting after hours per location, and maybe when are the peaks of those calls. With this particular customer, what we did is enable what we call One Cloud Enhanced Reporting. And enhanced reporting is a call accounting software. And essentially, what it is it's turned on domain wide. So now I'm not talking about call center agents having to log into a queue. There's no logging in or out of anything. There's no special configuration. Essentially, it's a flip of a switch. And now I'm able to create more granular reports of how many calls per store between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., how many calls came in to each store between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and were answered or unanswered, and then how many calls were coming in after hours. Once we enabled this, it was really a very seamless piece for the customer. Not a whole lot for them to have to learn to program or understand. These reports were really quite intuitive. But out of the gate, they did notice that some of their underperforming stores, there were a lot of calls that weren't getting answered. So not these stores weren't hitting their revenue targets, but they're not also noticing that a lot of the calls that were coming into these stores aren't getting answered. So what's happening? Are people ignoring those calls? Is their staff too busy or understaffed to be able to answer calls and schedule more service. That's for them to investigate. But now they have the ability to see why these calls are, what the volume of calls that are coming in and what, it's not getting answered, why. Secondly, for three additional stores, they were able to identify that after hours between 5 and 6, they were seeing a very large increase, or 20 to 30 calls per day on average coming into these locations that were being sent to the answering service. In turn, what they did is they actually extended the hours of operation at these three locations to from 5 to 7 p.m. And by doing that, they were able to increase revenue for up to 15%, because now they're able to push a lot more people through. They knew that the demand was there. People are calling in, trying to get those appointments. And let's be real here. Most of us work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. At 5 p.m., it's really hard to get certain things done. So this was a very seamless way for a customer to just essentially flip a switch and get a better idea of what was going on. But they really didn't need the call center pieces. They didn't have the core team to be able to do that. And they don't really, weren't really dealing with the need for a lot of email communication for this type of business. So with that said, healthcare and dermatology was another one. Grab myself a little sip here, and I apologize. My camera is acting up today, so I've gone ahead and just cut it out. The healthcare, this was a dermatology and laser and vein type clinic, and they started seeing quite an increase in customers calling in to schedule some appointments. They had the healthcare staff to deal with the volume. The problem was the amount of calls that started coming in. They were getting popular, some radio ads, and I guess some word of mouth really spread. And these calls were coming in, and they were having a hard time answering all of these calls, and then dealing with scheduling or rescheduling or talking about billing. And they needed to scale that up. They needed to add some additional bodies to be able to handle that volume and to assist their customers and reschedule and get everything lined up. But the problem for them was they didn't really have the brick and mortar location to do it. They had the rooms for the patients and the doctors, but the front of house was not as big as they'd like to add additional bodies. So with that, they were exploring the ability to add some remote employees to the mix. But the first thing that comes to mind, and a lot of us think about it, is, well, if I have remote employees, how do I know that they're taking calls? How do I know that they're available and being productive when they should? And I also want to get a better idea of what those call volumes are. Do I need to add 3 additional employees, or do I need to add 6 additional employees to be able to do that? After some discussions and showing them some tools, we ended up deploying OneCloud Professional Contact Center. OneCloud Professional Contact Center, I showed you that wallboard before. This immediately gives you the ability to see real time what the status of your agents are doing. In this scenario, with an agent being at home, they are able to log into this software, OneCloud Contact Center, as well as any type of contact center these days is all cloud-based. So there's not an on-premise PBX that has to be programmed. It's not complicated. And you can easily just hire a new employee, send them an email, get them logged in and ready to take calls in just a matter of minutes. So they were able to bring in these new employees, get them up to speed on what they needed to do, and have them remote. And with tools like a Professional Contact Center, I'm able to look at things like agent availability. Agent availability means I'm an agent who should be logged in from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., maybe with 2 15-minute lunches and a 15-minute break. When they log in, I, as a supervisor, can now manage and see real time, A, are they logged in or on a call? And then B, historically look at how long they were logged in. Do I see excessive break times? Do I see that they logged out and maybe they were supposed to be available for 8 hours a day, but I'm really only seeing 6 hours that they were logged in, and some extensive breaks? What were they doing during that time? They're remote. I can't see them. So this gives you a lot more accountability and to see what they're doing. Additionally, now with a call center, you're able to break down things like average hold time per queue, average handle time per agent. So now they can deliver that real-time coaching, and with coaching tools such as Live Monitor, and Whisper or coaching tools gave them a little bit more flexibility. Additionally, they added in a flavor of SMS as well. So now when they're advertising on their main number, and I oddly enough heard this the other day when I was heading back from the grocery store, two back-to-back commercials where they said, here's our main number, call or text today. So it simply added another channel of communication for their customers to communicate with them to either schedule those appointments or maybe ask about what costs are, or even reschedule some appointments, all done from one centralized group. And they were able to scale. So this organization was able to easily scale up, add that remote work. They're able to optimize staffing, seeing what's going on with those agents, giving customers improved response time. Now I can't answer my calls and they're going to voicemail. Now I'm able to answer those calls, and added an additional channel of communication. So it was a huge benefit for them. And they're continuing to grow with that tool and understand it better every day. But it was a huge benefit. It got them the ability for their business to scale and grow the way that they needed to, and give them, the accountability. Lastly, is a automotive and sales and service. One of our customers is a very large automotive sales company in the Triad, and they have about 40 locations. These 40 locations are what they call campuses, and at each one of these campuses, they have 4 or 5 dealerships. This would be different models of vehicles that they sell, so Jeep or Ram or Ford or Chevy. So first of all of these locations, all of these campuses, a lot of times they're servicing customers. So these calls and all these touch points would come back to what they call their BDC, yeah, Business Development Center. At the time, this customer was only utilizing voice within their contact center. So when calls were coming in, calls would come into the main locations, and then they would roll over to their business development center and speak with these agents. A lot of these agents, whether they were sales or service, were cross-trained in different vehicles and different vehicle models. So now we're talking, we have some skill-based routing that's going to need to be involved here with calls. But they were working with third parties such as Auto Trader and other companies that were providing some web chat that wasn't their organization. It was a third party web chat that was talking with their customers and then maybe forwarding information over. Same as they had a few different tools for texting, but a lot of the parts team and the parts members, they were using their own cell phones to text back and forth between customers. And they wanted a way to be able to capture all of this information and drive it all into one tool or one location. With that said, with this customer, we scaled up to our tool called OneCloud CX. OneCloud CX is able to consolidate voice, chat, email, SMS, skill-based routing all into one place, and additionally provide some AI support. And some of the tools that they use for the AI support would be some of their luxury brands such as Porsche, Audi. They were able to set priority customers. So when they called in, or maybe when they SMS or web chatted in, since it captured that information, dipped over to the CRM, identified who they were, it routed them to a priority queue or priority agent to handle their needs. At the same time, it's enabling things like screen pop. So when these web chats are coming in, all of this information is going to be put in front of the agent's face as quickly as possible. But the big piece was it centralized all of these communication channels and opened up their ability to communicate with the customers or meet them where they were. This is auto sales. Like any of us, if we've ever stepped onto a car dealership, it doesn't even matter if you're there for service. If you're even peeking through the window, they're going to be on you asking if you want to buy a new car. But it's really true. If you're looking for a vehicle, a lot of times you're going to buy something, maybe spontaneously, and having the ability to quickly assist their customers with a sale or setting up an appointment, regardless of how that communication came in, it was highly important to them. But on the service side, that was also very, very important to them. Customer satisfaction was a huge deal, and they knew that it created reoccurring customers. So offering additional channels of communication was a big piece. But this also centralized all of the agents' QA. Now, I didn't get too far into it, but tools like contact centers are going to allow you to be able to capture, as I said, sentiment, but CSAT scores. And these CSAT scores can be across all of those communication channels, SMS or email or web chat, and they can live with the agent, which means that an agent can have an overall CSAT score, and this can be captured automatically and live historically with that agent. So as they are getting coaching, you can see what their customer feedback scores are and what customers think of those interactions. The AI in here as well is able to align things like workforce management. So it can look at historical interactions over SMS or web chat and see where maybe some of the peak touch points or peak interactions are and automatically align all of those schedules. And then even do some really cool stuff with predictive pieces of, hey, I'm noticing that there's a negative sentiment or some words that are being said on this particular call or web chat, and notify a supervisor for them to proactively engage that agent and see if they can help mitigate the issue. So with this particular customer, one of the big impacts of moving over to OneCloud CX is it centralized those customer touchpoints into one place. It streamlined their tools. They were able to get rid of some third-party SMS applications that they were using within a team that wasn't even in their contact center. Provided them with that smart routing, which gave them the ability to route customers, priority customers, to different pieces. Also, things like sticky agents, which means if I called in and spoke with an agent, if I call in over the next 3 hours or 24 hours, I can route that customer directly back to that same agent, which is really big for me, at least. I know when I'm digging into certain things with some companies, having to go through 12 different people is beyond frustrated. And then overall improve the visibility. So now they're able to see all of these customer touch points and then see them all consolidated into one reporting tool, giving them better visibility and ensuring that they're providing that boosted satisfaction. All right. See if I can get that working again. How long that works. So choosing the right solution. So a couple of key questions that you're going to want to ask yourself as a business owner: what you might need. Do I need call accounting, or do I need a full-blown contact center? And then the first piece is, what communication channels do your customers expect to use? So is phone support enough? What product are you selling? Are you seeing that there could be demand for chat, text, email, or social media? Do you think that this is going to better service your service team and improve your customer satisfaction? Or even from a sales perspective, having more customer access to you and your team, could this potentially boost sales, giving you different avenues of communication to better service or to better get your information out to your customers? What level of customer interaction does your business require? Do you just want to track call activity? Is that all that you need to know? Or are you managing some agents on your team? Do you have queues that it's important that everybody's logged into? And if a couple of people call off for the day, you're seeing some issues there with customer satisfaction. Do you want to enable some workflows? And in those workflows, maybe a service team gets a call and they can simply click a button to start a process of creating a ticket. How important is real-time visibility and agent performance tracking? Do you need to see what your agents are doing? Do you need to see if they're logged in or logged out? Do you need to make sure that they are, logged in for their shift and actually adhering to it? Do you need to live monitor these individuals to listen to their calls to make sure that they are saying the right words or asking for the sale when they're supposed to, or even getting through a difficult conversation with the customer appropriately? Or is just having some historical call data good enough for you? And then lastly, and really the most important one, is what role does customer experience play in your competitive strategy? Do you just want to track usage, or do you want to create a more personalized multi-channel customer experience? CX or omni-channel tools are really where that's at, because again, they have deep integrations into tools like your CRM, where I can populate different information. What are the 5 most recent products that this customer had? And my agent can ask them, hey, I see that you just ordered this. How did you feel about it? Did it meet all of your needs? it's more personal. And when I call in, I feel like I'm talking to somebody that actually knows me instead of just, this random barrage of questions just to find my account. And then they're like, oh yeah, okay, what can I do for you? Makes really, really, really big difference. With that said, one of the last things here as I go ahead and close this out is, what does it look like to transition to a system? And I always like this slide because it's really important that people understand what you should expect when you're moving to a different solution. It doesn't matter if you're moving to a contact center, if you're moving your faxing over, if you're changing your CRM software, anything that can impact your business, I think is highly important that you understand the process and the flow, and that you have high expectations of how that process process should work. I know that some of our projects team is on this call, and those folks take their job above and beyond. There's a lot of logistics, and there's a lot of friction that can occur when you're moving to different solutions. You're tearing the communication heart out and putting in a new one. That can be a big one, not just for you trying to figure it all out and navigate it, but for your company and your employees to make sure that adoption is easy and it's not a crazy bumpy ride. With our team, the first thing that we do is once you actually go through the process, put the ink down and you're ready to move forward. We introduce you to a project team. We introduce you to some folks on the installation team, and you also get an account manager who's going to be there with you to help you understand things better and answer questions that you might have. Part of that assessment phase, a lot of times, if this is an on-premise change or things like that, you're moving your software over. We're going to evaluate the infrastructure. Do you have the enough data or bandwidth to be able to handle certain things? Are we meeting all the communication needs? Do you have enough licenses for everything? Do you have any other software that you might need to integrate or tie in? And can we meet that need or streamline it? From after that, we move into a planning phase. Planning phase is essentially where you come up with your scope of work. The scope of work says, this is how we're going to proceed. These are the goals that we're trying to accomplish, and then we will drive through that. You then move to a deployment phase. Deployment is where we do install testings and we do the install, we do all of the testing, and then we transition seamlessly. A lot of times that can be highly involved with different pieces that are all coming together, such as porting of numbers, or even connecting physical devices. And again, that's where our projects team comes in to make sure that you are on the same page the entire way as you go through it, and keeping everything scheduled. You then have training and support. Another really big piece here that I think is always really important is understanding that we can provide remote support. We have a rich volume of different knowledge base articles available to you at support.onecloud.com. You can check out our YouTube channel with a lot of information there. And our project team will provide virtual training sessions for all of our solutions. But then you can also do on-site training. Now, keep in mind, on-site training is a little bit more of a resource. It usually comes at a cost. But I feel that sometimes getting in front of the employees can really make a big difference in adoption and understanding. Much like this webinar, it's a virtual event. I can't see everybody's face and know exactly what they're doing and making sure that they're understanding everything I say. So sometimes having that person on site makes a really big difference. And then lastly, if you need things like fast track deployment, we were talking today about call centers and contact centers. We did actually fast track a call center that was over 150 users that they ended up, the on-prem solution died out on them. They needed to be up and available. And within 24 hours, we were able to get them up and running. Now, it wasn't 100% perfect, but they went from a dead system and 150 agents that couldn't answer and take calls and customers who couldn't call in to, hey, we at least got you up, you're working, we've got analytics, we've got tracking, we've got 90% of the data that you need. So if you need fast track deployment, those are solutions that we have available. All right. With that said, a lot of information that I've captured today. If you have any questions or concerns that you might have, I'm more than happy to answer them for you. I'll go ahead and open this up for questions. If you want to ask your question, you'll see here the little hand. Go ahead and press that button and raise your hand, and one of our moderators will go ahead and unmute you and let you ask your question. With that said, I'll go ahead and open it up. All right. Well, if there aren't any questions, I want to thank everybody for stopping by today. As I did mention, if you Google OneCloud webinars, you are able to see our upcoming webinars and have webinars on demand. But if you did sign up, we will be sending you out a follow-up email and a copy of today's webinar. So I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you have a great day.